Start talking.
Okay.
That's already.
Okay. Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Eugene Roy Joseph, speaking on behalf of the Malaysian China Chambers of Commerce. This is a 7th webinar session titled Way Forward on Industrial Revolution 4.0 for SMEs. And we are very happy to welcome our 3 distinguished speakers, Dr. Chua Wen-Shyan, Mr. Tiong Khe Hock, as well as Mohd Mirza Mohamed Noor. And this entire session is going to be moderated by our celebrity entrepreneur, Ms. Wong Chulin. Without further ado, I'll leave the floor to Ms. Wong to moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene Roy. Hi, everybody. I believe okay, we have now 108 participants and more joining us. Once again, welcome to the 7th webinar organized by Malaysia China Chamber of Commerce. Like Eugene Roy just said, today the topic is way forward. Let me give you a very brief introduction about myself. I started in entertainment line and I've been doing broadcast for more than 20 years in Malaysia, in both conventional and online media. And I'm also on my way to my IR 4.0 and also run a few businesses in different areas. Now, since we're still waiting for other participants to join us, in order to make this webinar more, we all can take home something really useful. Allow me to get to understand you more. Okay, do you see this the chat room here? Yeah, you click on it. Okay, I would like to ask all of you. Okay, how many of you have never heard of IR 4.0? Never, never. Put 1. Okay, you key in the 1 here. Like if you have never heard of it. Oh, Candy, Johnson, Vicky. Okay. And now, how many of you have heard of IR 4.0, but yet to take any action? Later lah, maybe one day lah. 2. Okay. Just 1. Only cars and loud. Oh, we have dancing phone. Now we're doing, yeah, the next question is how many of you are in progress? ING. Then you type 3. Type 3. So we have a mixture of 1, 2, 3 here, right? More 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. Well, not bad, huh? Okay, cool. So we pretty much have you know, a mixture of 1, 2, and 3. So good, you're at the right place. Okay, wait. Who are the gurus here? Sifu, right? Type 4. All right, don't worry. We're all here to listen and to learn from our experts. As the title says, Way Forward IR 4.0. And the only way to succeed is to empower your IR 4.0 journey. Now, we're glad to have a panel of speakers today, and we will be covering quite a number of areas, topics related to IR 4.0, from digitization, digitalization to smart factories, steps to IR 4.0. We also will give you classic examples and also some initiatives for SMEs in Malaysia. And of course, what we can do or what we should do after this COVID-19. I think this is the hottest question now. Allow me to introduce to you our speakers. First of all, let's do this E-clap. First of all, we have Dr. Chua Wen-Shyan, Head of Malaysian Smart Factory 4.0, Selangor Human Resource Development Center. Welcome, Dr. Chua.
Hi, welcome. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Good.
And we have our second speaker, Mr. Tiong Khe Hock, Managing Director, Omron Electronics in Berhad. Hi, Mr. Tiong.
Hi, Julie. Great to be here.
Yeah. Hi, okay, welcome. Thanks for your time. And last but not least, of course, Mohd Mirza Mohamed Noor, Senior Director, National Strategic Initiative, MIMOS Berhad.
Good morning, guys.
Morning. And I'm sure today there will be quite a lot of questions to initiate you, right? Everybody needs help. Okay. Yeah, so guys, yeah, I think we're pretty much here. Thank you for your time. Now we will have a solo session for each of our speakers, and there will be one short chit chat after each speaker, each session. And towards the end, after all three sessions, we will open for a Q&A. So ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to put down your questions in this chat room, okay, you know, along the way when you're listening to our speakers, and then we will save all the questions to the end. And this whole webinar, besides we're having it here, we are also broadcasting on MCCC official Facebook page, as well as my official page, SHUI trailing page. That would be, you know, that's another like 200,000 viewers. So we will also be collecting questions from the two official Facebook together with the questions in chat room. So we will try our very, very best to attend to all of you if time permits. So without further ado, I would like to hand this over to our first speaker, Dr. Chua Wen-Shyan, head of Malaysian Smart Factory 4.0 Selangor Human Resource Development Center. And his key area of expertise lies mainly in the area of control and automation systems for detection and identification and predictive maintenance strategies, which are widely used in Industry 4.0 applications. Dr. Chua and his team focus in delivering high-impact talent development programs to accelerate the growth of local talents who would be the workforce in supporting the growth of Industry 4.0. So ladies and gentlemen, integration of technologies towards a smart factory by Dr. Chua. Dr. Chua, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Wong. A very good morning to everybody, and thank you very much to the Malaysian China Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to speak this morning to every one of you. Hope everyone is doing well. And basically this morning, what we are going to share with you from the Malaysian Smart Factory side at SHRDC is more towards the idea of the integration of technologies towards the smart factory and how the concept of smart factory can actually help you, especially for SMEs, to actually scale up their businesses in terms of Industry 4.0 implementation. So without further ado, let me start off my presentation for today. So as all of us would know that Industry 4.0 is not a very new topic. It's been around for quite some time. So if you look in terms of the whole industrial revolution journey, it all started off with Industry 1.0 with mechanization, steam power. And then when it comes to Industry 2.0, that's where you hear a lot of mass production, assembly lines, electrical energy. And when it reaches to Industry 3.0, that's actually where automation starts to kick in, where you have computers, electronics, all to support your mass production and assembly line. But when it came to Industry 4.0, that's where things start to be a bit more integrated. That's where you have cyber physical systems, you have Internet of Things, which is IoT, and of course, networks, which actually helps to actually connect all your systems together. So then if you really look deeper into the concept of Industry 4.0, it's really looking back at providing more product variety, but expanding the product volume per variant. So it's very much similar to the olden days where you have craft production, where it's, if you call it made to order or very personalized orders for you. That's where Industry 4.0 kicks in to provide mass customization. And while providing mass customization, that actually allows you to reduce your costs while maximizing your profits as well. Because a lot of people nowadays, they like products that are made for them or uniquely theirs, right? So then the next question would be, how do we really support the implementation of Industry 4.0 to realize this journey? And therefore, when we look at the whole journey of Industry 4.0, it's not, we shouldn't think of it as an expensive journey. We should look at it in terms of a journey to minimize cost, right, per product produced. And basically by minimizing costs, we look at it in terms of minimizing time delays, right? When we look at the entire system like this, you know, when there's an event happening, that's when there's a delay for you to achieve your insight to what the event is happening. Then when you look at achieving insights, you know, you need time to analyze what happened. And when you analyze what happened, you need time to decide what to do. And from the point of decision making to the point of action making, that's basically time as well. So the question now is, in each section of time that you look here, every single time equals to cost. right? And when there's a lot of time delay in your, from the event happening, for example, machine down, right? You need 2 hours to actually get the machine back up operational again. That's actually a lot of cost and impact to your production line, and of course, impact to your whole supply chain of producing your products. So the main question of Industry 4.0 is, how do we minimize the time delays to ensure a quick resolution, hence minimizing costs? And the whole idea about technology nowadays is not so much that it being expensive, but it should be, simple enough, less complex enough to integrate and to scale up. So that's where the concept of the smart factory comes in. So if you look at the whole smart factory concept, it's basically an integration of technologies for digital transformation. So if we think about Industry 4.0, we hear a lot about the pillar concept. Now, if we put it all together, in terms of two parts, which is the horizontal integration and the vertical integration. So horizontal integration is more about your hardware, software integration at your shop floor, where all your machines are interconnected to each other. Then once you collect enough information, enough data, that's where you scale up into your vertical integration. That's where you have AI, you have analytics, you have cloud, you have cyber physical systems. And then when you have a lot of data, when you want to do more things with your data, you get to go to the diagonal side of things, which is your digital continuity. And that's where, technologies such as AR, VR will come into play to support you into your journey of a digital factory. So then we break it down into three parts where we talk about operational technologies, information technologies, and of course the digital factory. So now the whole concept about integrating technologies is that it needs to be fast, flexible, and scalable platforms to actually help you to grow faster in this kind of stage. It shouldn't be complex such that it's difficult to implement. So how do we actually look at fast, flexible, scalable integration? So basically, the concept of integration comes with a brand neutral approach, which means that you are a multi-vendor connectivity, right? Different brands connecting to each other. Basically, it's like humans talking to each other in a single language. For example, English, that's our common communication protocol, which means that machines as well will talk to each other in an open communication protocol altogether. Now, then how do you scale up in a very fast and rapid phase? That comes into the concept of open collaboration, where there are a lot of technologies out there that are actually helping the community to integrate, their systems in terms of IoT and analytics very, very quickly. And that's through very much an open collaboration concept powered by the community. And when there is open collaboration, that's where rapid prototyping kicks in. And when you have rapid prototyping, you have a lot of development. That's where you really reduce your time to deploy all these technologies to your shop floor. And that is actually the concept which I will share more with you today. So when we think about smart factory in overall, when we talk about the technologies, we really need to keep in mind that technology should be modular, it should be compatible, flexible, and of course, it needs to be scalable. So if you think about the concept of IKEA or even Lego, right? It's all building blocks where you actually can connect them together, you can put them together, and it's all compatible, right? It's very modular, very compatible, scalable. And therefore, the concept of IKEA or Lego is all about reducing the complexity to actually guide you to build new things, and therefore reducing the cost of integration in overall. So that's really the concept of a smart factory, where it really helps you to start with small pieces of Lego blocks, smart objects, for example, building up smart production modules, connect them together, you have a smart production line, right? So that's basically the whole concept about modularity, compatibility, flexibility, and scalability. So then what we did next is we actually broke down all the technologies blocks into basically 5 levels of maturity, right? Because a lot of industries, especially SMEs, they are very excited in the whole concept of Industry 4.0, where AI can do wonders for me. It can make a lot of good decisions for me. Analytics can be done. My production yield will increase by leapfolds. My investment will go very, very high. And basically, I will have a lot of ROI driven by analytics or AI. But the big question that we usually ask, when we talk about AI analytics is that, do you have data in your shop floor, right? Because the only way that AI analytics can come in is basically if you have information, if you have data. So that's why we broke it down into 5 levels of maturity, right? If you want to achieve level 5 of analytics, you need to have data first. So that's where level 1 comes in. Then if you want to look at the data, looking at trends, that's where you start to look at visualization. That's level 2. Now, if you talk about analytics or AI, it's not just a one-day production data and then your line is fully AI. Not exactly. So we look at data storage where we need to store data, historian data for some time. And therefore, that's when you can really understand, how data works for you and how data provides the trend. It's very similar to the concept of teaching someone that this is an apple, right? If you continuously teach someone that that's an apple, it stores, and eventually, when you provide an orange, it just gives you that this is not an apple, right? So you need to continuously teach machines, and that's through data. And of course, data formulation comes in to put together equations of efficiency. How do you see productivity through your data? And that's where, if you want to expand, that's where analytics comes in. Now, Industry 4.0, again, is not about, building complex systems, building very, very complicated systems. It's about, custom built applications for you, which are sustainable digital transformation. So if you look at this dashboard, it has a lot of features. You have machine status, process time. It looks at the whole, assembly line production. And this is actually what we have currently at our Malaysian Smart Factory. That's our production line, which we are monitoring. It has a lot of features or user authentication, and it's all about integrating those technologies together to build custom-built applications just for you, uniquely for you, right? And when you look at the overall scalability of the platforms, when you look at dashboarding data, through OEE, overall equipment effectiveness, you want to look at real-time power consumption, and eventually you may want to look at real-time email alerts and monitoring dashboards, a lot of things which you want to put together to really scale up your industry. And the main question that industries will usually ask is that, okay, I want to do all this. I really want to get myself started, right? And especially in this scenario of COVID-19, where, I need to be more cost savvy. I need to be more careful about managing my cash flow. So I want to start Industry 4.0, but where can I really start? So that's where, the platforms that I share with you today is basically very much flexible and scalable in the sense that you can actually start off your journey very, very quickly through these platforms that I just shared with you on this screen over here. So all these platforms are basically openly available for the community. You can actually go home and download it today, and you can get started on your journey in Industry 4.0 at a very low cost of investment, right? The key point is always to get people kickstart and to gain confidence in the platform, and therefore you get a very clear idea on how to scale up from there. So why these platforms are very, very much scalable and agile is because, when we talk about open collaboration and communication, that's where the platforms actually contribute in terms of scalable technologies, readiness to implement. Platforms that we share with you are low upfront investment. They are active environment for testing, readiness to replicate. And that's the key point to actually start your journey of Industry 4.0 at a very low upfront cost. And in fact, the dashboards that I showed to you just now, you may think that it's done by a very professional engineer, done by a very experienced programmer. But I can share with you that actually it's done by my interns in the Smart Factory. And that actually shows how technologies are now getting simpler to implement, and therefore it eases the transition for scalability of Industry 4.0. So just to share with you how these platforms are scalable and how we have helped some industries to really scale up from there. So basically we go with the concept of from training to implementation, right? So we work with a company, we actually help them to identify, the right programs to help them to get kickstarted because they want to collect some data from a legacy machine. We work with them on the talent development program. We identify the project post-training with them, helping them to collect some data from a legacy machine. And once the project is completed, basically what happens is that, whatever that they build, the software, the hardware that they put together, basically they have ownership over the hardware, over the software. And basically from there, the programs are basically flexible and they can replicate on their own. And it's up to the it's up to the management what they want to do with it after that. So it's very much a very low upfront investment, and also helps them to actually make their own decisions. They have ownership, basically it belongs to them, and therefore they can build their own sustainable roadmap from there later on. So basically, when we talk about Industry 4.0, it's a lot of people think that it's all about technology, but actually it really starts and begins with the people, right? And the organization, right? We have met many industries that want to do it, but it all boils down to the whole culture of the organization and whether they want to embrace and adopt technology and Industry 4.0. So it all begins with the organization where your top leadership commitment needs to be there. You need to define the Industry 4.0 roadmap. Identify your innovation teams. Then set a talent development roadmap. Really bring up the motivation of your staff. Bring up the skills of your staff, because once you skill them, basically they can help you to scale up your businesses, and that basically your staff are your assets of your company. And they will help you to build your company in the long run. And once you identify Kickstarter projects, those are quick win projects that can actually help to build the culture and commitment of adopting Industry 4.0 in your community. So basically, in overall, the concept of what we are sharing, is at a very low upfront investment where you look into building your talent capacity. Once you upskill and reskill them, they will help you to integrate, scale up. Basically, you develop future technology experts. They can adapt to any changes of technology eventually. And we are always here to support you along the way through talent development. And through this kind of concept, basically, you build a sustainable and scalable technology ecosystem for your factory, because talents are always there for you. They know ins and out of your scalability. They know your roadmap deep down enough. They will be able to help you along your journey. So essentially, that's what we do at the Malaysian Smart Factory. We really help to support SMEs. We are an SME digital transformation space. We look deeply into the technology. We basically work on developing modules to help industries to scale up. Basically, whatever application-based developments that we do, we will teach back to the industries in the form of programs. We work a lot with technology partners to actually showcase emerging technologies at our space, so that we, in the case of rapid technology developments, we will introduce it back to the industries to help them to put it together and to scale up from there again, right? There's a lot of wonderful technologies out there that are just ready to adopt. And, we do lighthouse projects, proof of concept, post-training for industries. We really try to help them to kickstart their journey through a hand-holding process. And our space basically is like a living lab. It's a model factory. You can come and have a look at all the technologies integrated together. And of course, eventually, due to all the COVID-19 issues, we are launching our digital training platform. So that's where we can really be there to support all the industries through this journey. Learning shouldn't stop just because we are stuck at home, right? So, basically in overall, we are always here for you through the journey. We will try to support all the industries that we can. Keep in touch with us. These are our contacts. We hope to work with everybody to do more webinar series to share more about our concepts, and of course, to help you along your journey of Industry 4.0. So with that, that's all I have for today. We hope to be able to shape your vision of Industry 4.0 together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chua. And so it's a quick recap of what Dr. Chua has mentioned. Actually, a smart factory is not that complicated. Okay, we can start it simple, and it can be easy to integrate. And more importantly, is the people, right? Yeah, the people,
Yes.
They are the mindset and stuff. So having said that, of course, from you, it's simple and easy to integrate. But to a lot of people, especially, they are running their business in conventional ways. They always have this idea. Oh, I definitely have to get a consultant or a team of consultants to kick this off. Is that true?
Yeah. So basically, I think, yes, you can, of course, consult anybody in terms of how to adopt the technology. But of course, it really starts with the understanding of how these technologies are integrated together. So usually, we will always advise them to understand how technologies are integrated, so that when they discuss with the consultants, they really know what they want to achieve, right? Because most of the time when we talk to industries, they only look at the top level, which is, okay, I want this, right? But the whole roadmap is what we need to help them to develop. And that's what we try to support them. And usually very, very key points that they want to start with is actually collection of data, right? That they actually stuck at the moment. So when we talk about simplicity of integration, we really look at ways of putting it like how you connect Lego blocks together. So all the platforms that we work with are generally very much non-programming centric. You know, you can just connect, drag and drop kind of blocks, and basically you can get one data out of that already. So that's how scalable or a bit more simple for implementation. So that's how industries can actually get started from there. And once they understand how these are all integrated, of course, consultants can come in to help them to build a better roadmap for them.
And the second point you mentioned just now is the people. You know, people are the company's assets, right? And then can you share with us your experience? You know, in a company, especially company that are established, you know, they have a team of experienced management, okay, versus the younger people. So I mean, like the logical deduction, the younger people will have this, more creative ideas, and then so the communication, would it be also one of the problems that the companies, the SMEs, encountering now?
I think when you have very, very experienced people, those are really, really great. Those are domain experts of how, you know, the whole production line is operating, how the machines are operating, and really about the whole Industry 4.0 application really requires domain expertise. So what we do is we try to help them to, you know, even those who are very, very experienced in the industry, we help them to skill up, you know, in a very fast pace. And basically we had people who come from very senior backgrounds, like age about 40 plus. And we do have some coming from backgrounds of biotechnology, some coming from backgrounds of an SPM leaver, but he has already, you know, worked there for 10 years, for example, for a company, tech company. You know, all these coming together, it's all about the passion to learn, I think. And it's really about how we can create impact for them. So, you know, through the programs that we do, we try to help them to create more impact. And after that, what we do is we try to handhold them for a period and, you know, show them how it's done. And then from there, once you learn, you practice, you can do after that.
Okay. And now, are all SMEs in manufacturing can afford or can convert, can transform their old factory to a smart one? Any areas which are more challenging compared to the rest?
Yep. So I think the main part will be when you talk about Industry 4.0, is really to begin with what is the objective that they want to achieve, right? Do they want to really achieve full automation, or they want to basically achieve a better output of yield? And it all starts with the concept of, actually for us, it all starts with the concept of lean manufacturing, you know, understanding what processes need to be optimized. And by doing lean, basically you need data. So really understanding which are the data points that they want to collect, right? And then we can automate that data collection for them. For example, we do have some SMEs which are, you know, they don't need so much of data collection from machines, but they want to collect data like temperature and humidity, for example, for a pharmaceutical company. And because that's where their laborer's task is, you know, they have to assign someone every hour to collect that information, you know, for all the data points in the factory. So that's a very laborious task. But if you can automate that task for them, basically they have better transparency, they can release that staff to do something better, and therefore creating more productivity and impact for the company. So it really depends per every company what they want to achieve, and therefore we will try to suggest ways where they can achieve that.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chua. And we'll speak to you again towards the end and during the Q&A. Okay. Now let's bring on our second speaker, Ms. Tiong Khe Hock, Managing Director, Omron Electronics in Berhad. Mr. Tiong has over 35 years of experience in the field of instrumentation, control, and industrial automation. And he led the company for almost 20 years and has built a team of competent sales and application engineers capable of offering automation solutions to meet the diverse needs of his clients. So today, Mr. Tiong will be sharing with us Omron IR 4.0 solutions and the way forward after COVID-19 impact. Over to you, Mr. Tiong.
Yeah, thank you, Chui Ling, for that introduction. And of course, thank you so much for MCCC to organize this webinar. And of course, it's great to be here to share Omron's experience in IR4. Okay, let me just put on share my slide right now. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, so let me begin by just sharing a little bit about who is Omron. I think because since the organization that I represent, I think a lot of people may not fully understand what is Omron. I think Omron is a lot of them associated with blood pressure monitor. I think we are I think on a consumer side. But basically, when you look at the business, which I would like to show here, is that actually 46% of our business actually come from industrial automation. So that is, I would say, our main business. Healthcare business only contribute about 13% of our business. So our mission actually is to improve lives and contribute to a better society. In fact, we have done a lot of invention of also, over the years, trying to resolve social issue through our knowledge in automation. I think perhaps a lot of people are not aware that we are the first inventor of the first unmanned train station in Japan. Actually, that has solved a lot of social issues, together with the unmanned ticketing as well as the auto gate system in 1967. We are also the first company to introduce the automated cash dispenser in 1971. Of course, in 2009, we have already sold more than 100 million pieces of home, what they call blood pressure monitor. We also developed the most advanced, what they call power conditioner in 2011 in the market. So just to give you an idea that actually we actually focus a lot on development of our product or business to resolve social issue. So in the industrial automation business, I think we are perhaps one of over the years, we have actually developed a wide range of products that cover in the areas of automation, from inputs to logic to output. Of course, also including robot and safety as one of the important aspects of industrial automation. So our vision in industrial automation is to bring innovation to manufacturing sites. And how this can be achieved is through the three areas of automation. One is through what I call the integrated automation, and the other one is through intelligent automation and interactive automation. Integrated here means machines should be fully integrated, and we are can operate at super high speed and super precision. Intelligent here means machines should be intelligent enough with AI that is able to do self-learning. Interactive here, I mean machine and robots are able to work side by side. So by doing that, we are able to achieve highly flexible and scalable manufacturing. So now I would like to talk about a little about the steps to Industry 4. I think just now, Dr. Chua has already done a good job in terms of giving a roundup of what is Industry 4 and also cover a little bit about the steps to Industry 4. I would say that if you consider on the Malaysian context, especially SME, I think if they straight away go into Industry 4, I would say that most of them are not ready. That's my general observation. So this is a slide that was showed by one of the earlier speakers in webinar on talking about lean, so which I'm sharing here. So I think for all SME, I think also mentioned by Dr. Chua just now, I think first set up a team, look at your own operation first, look at operation technology first, look at the operation side. Whether are you lean, do you have a team that are able to know your do some improvement to your process? So set up a team, understand what are the tools, understand what is considered waste in the lean manufacturing. What are the considered waste? Like for example, manpower waste. Maybe you have too many people. Your process, your process are not optimized. Your layout of your machine are not optimized. You may have too much of overproduction. You may have too much of excess inventory. You have too much of reject. So these, I think, are the first step for anyone who wants to go in Industry 4. And the next step, obviously, then you talk about automation and IR4. Of course, a lot of companies think that IR4 were able to solve everything. But if you are not able to solve your operational technology issue, I think even if you have the IT connected, I don't think you are able to achieve the Industry 4 in the future. So I think automation is still a need. Although just now, I think Dr. Chua did not cover so much on automation. So I think I would like to take this opportunity to actually emphasize the importance of the operational technology side. So which means automation is still the key. Of course, automation you can start from very small. Of course, by first of all collecting data. Collecting data is important, but how are you going to make use of that data? What does that data means to you? I think that is an area that I think we need to talk about later. So of course, people talk about AI and analytics, data analytics. That can come later. All right. So Omron, as a glance, we have many solutions that can cater for IoT, for people who want to do digitalization, you want to do OEE, they want to do predictive maintenance. We also have RFID for companies who want to do product traceability or tracking. We also have vision systems able to do to replace manual vision inspection. We also have robots that can do collaborative robots as well as pick and place robot, and of course also AI and data analytics. So, but today I'm not going to cover all the solutions that we have, but I'm going to share experience of how we have helped a company in Singapore to digitize their factory, and of course this one I'm sharing. And of course, the other one that is I would like to touch on is how to cater for a flexible production system. All right, so let me, before I go into the area of manufacturing digitalization, let's look at what are the shop floor challenges that the shop floor are facing actually. A lot of time, if I can use a Tyson example, is that there's not enough of visibility between the top floor, which is the management floor, as well as the shop floor. I think there's not enough. A lot of the job that was given to the shop floor is by manual. Maybe they have even they have an ERP system, but it's all maybe just worksheet that is given to the shop floor. But a lot of time, because they don't have proper real-time data collection or monitoring system, so they are not able to monitor whether their machine is running well, efficiently, whether they have already reached the time for maintenance before it starts to fail. So there's a lot of unplanned machine downtime and also unplanned machine costs. So obviously, production lead time is also consistent because, excuse me. So if you have machine that break down, so obviously it's going to affect your production lead time. So obviously machine employee safety is also another area that challenges that shop floor is facing. So in the current, if you are in the current environment scenario right now, obviously you have this issue of information not able to provide quickly to your customers. So obviously, how can you achieve customer satisfaction? So the way to go about is to go to digital factory. Of course, later I'm going to explain how it is to be done. So when you have able to give information within seconds, you're all real time. So you're able to achieve customer satisfaction that way. So typical architecture of whole factory-wide kind of digitalization can start with things like this. This is an example of what we have done in a global F&B company. Of course, they have different machines and they have to hook up to perhaps another what I call PLC together with touch panel for them to link the information to a workstation or SQL server. Of course, with this, once you have this data that is connected, you are able to connect to the information to ERP, to your backend system. As well, of course, if you want, you can put the information to the cloud. And once you are able to put the information to the cloud, of course, you can access the information remotely through your smart devices and the things like that. Of course, also at the same time, you can introduce, Wi-Fi in your factory where you are able to have your shift operator, even key in the data through their smart devices. So let me now just share an example, a case study of what we have done in a cable factory in Singapore. This is a 40-year-old company where they actually were still very much manual. In fact, how they have actually moved on their Industry 4 journey. I have a video that's showing how they move in this Industry 4 journey, but unfortunately, I'm not able to play this video because of the sound system. So I'm just going to just touch on this. So before they go on and start on this journey of Industry 4, they were still doing all these production records of using all manual data entry. And of course, we help them by actually introducing what we call using touch panel, by actually being able to key data directly in the system. And of course, at the back end, of course, what is important is, as I said just now, okay, you are able to collect the data, but what are you going to do with the data? In fact, you have to also at the same time integrate with your back-end system. For example, if you have your ERP system, you need your output linked to your output, you link to other production planning information as well. Then you can make full use of this data from a production and able to do some data visualization about your process. So, and of course, also including data and business intelligence as well. So I think these data, what I call integration between the factory floor and the back-end system are the areas I think a lot of people are not able to do, I think especially as SMEs. So with what we have achieved with them is they are able to see a dashboard, management dashboard with, regarding how their what I call operational efficiency, especially the machinery, how efficient they are being operating, all right, in terms of their availability, in terms of performance, in terms of also measuring their quality. So they are using this data for their, of course, also for their daily stand-up meeting as well as the performance dialogue. And over time, over this 1 year period, I think they started in 2016, and they have able to now upskill about 53 of the staff. And also their productivity has improved by 3.5% on their OE. And of course, also overall productivity has increased by 34%. So this is a good example I would like to share in Singapore. Of course, I have one video here, but I can't play it, but you can go to YouTube, just type Omron, Tyson Electric. I think there's a video come up. I think that's quite an interesting video where they show actually how they have actually transformed themselves. So next, I would like to talk about is the importance of flexible manufacturing. I think still when I'm talking about the OT side, I think it's still an important part of the journey towards Industry 4, where I think the landscape of the whole market landscape has changed, because I think in the early days, Malaysia perhaps can still go for those which are areas of mass production, or where you can mass produce a lot of products. But I think right now in Malaysia, I think the areas that can do mass production is perhaps only rubber glove, because we actually manufacture 60% of the world production. All right. So mass production, rubber glove industry, yes, possible. But a lot of industry that we have are in the low volume, high mix industry, actually, because most of the high volume industries actually are all done in China now, most of them. All right. So a lot of the manufacturers that we have actually have to cater for low volume, high mix, or even make to order kind of manufacturing. And of course, because of these low volume, high mix, obviously you have to change your setup, your product setup. You have to change over. You have to change your setting, tool setting, everything. So sometimes it takes time, and obviously it's very labor intensive. And of course, to really automate this is going to be very high cost. It may not justify because of the complexity of your process. So from a manual kind of production, how can you cater for this flexible manufacturing? So we recommend that you have some kind of work cell where you make use of some collaborative work robots to work side by side with people. So what I have got here picture is how a work cell will look like, where a work cell will have people here working, but at the same time you have a robot that is working side by side. And of course, at the same time, you can see that there's this camera here. Actually, the camera here, the purpose of this camera actually is to 3D camera actually is to monitor how the movement, the hand movement of a skilled labor, and they can use this to actually train an amateur, a new amateur, a new worker. And by monitoring the movement, emulating the movement, they can train up an unskilled worker, a new worker, to be a skilled worker in a very, very short period. So this is what we are advocating. Of course, at the same time, you may need to move materials here and there. I think one area you can utilize is obviously mobile robots. Maybe you can mount it with some kind of a cobot to able to help you to move things. And this is itself very flexible, because nowadays this kind of cobot is very, very easy for you to program it. All right. So I have also actually a video that talk about how some of these flexible automation can be done. Although maybe the sound is not there, I will just quickly play this video. Perhaps you can see how cobots, with their flexibility that you have, you can actually do a lot of things to cater for your current flexible automation or production that you would like to achieve. For example, you can mount a collaborative robot on a moving cart, and then you just push into the area that you want the cart to move. Of course, you know, as I said, it's very easy to program it. You can actually program it, and you just you can take over a job of a human being. All right. So this is, I think we have a lot of this industry that we in Malaysia where we still use a lot of human, where you need human to move things, to take out things, and so this is perhaps one of the options if your production is still very much in this manner. And the other areas that you can look at is perhaps in the areas of picking and palletizing. I think picking is another area where we still use a lot of human beings to do the picking and pick and place, to put into boxes and things like that. So again, robots these days are very flexible because with the built-in camera, you can do many of these tasks that that you don't require a human to do it, and then actually at a much higher speed and much what they call accurate. So you can see this mobile robot here. This is not an AGV because the AGV usually move on the same track. But this is what they call autonomous mobile robot, where you can actually will know how to avoid collision with human, and they are able to move freely in your shop floor. All right. So with that, I actually have another slide, but anyway, I'm not able to share this again in the video. So I'm coming now to my final slide where I think it's the way forward. I would say under these COVID-19 situations, I think a lot of companies maybe are affected by this COVID-19 in terms of whether their business is still around, whether whether they need to transform to an extent. I think it is time actually for us, for companies, especially SME, to really take stock and do a self-assessment in terms of their leadership, their people, especially as I just highlighted by Dr. Chua. The people is very important, how in their process, resources, and infrastructure, how they should move forward. And of course, also, they should start looking at their business model. Are they able to sustain their business in the long run? If their revenue streams is still intact, are they able to still, you know? So if maybe if they are affected by this, their revenue streams are affected, then maybe they have to explore to expand our markets outside the market and go for export market. Of course, the other constraint, obviously, consolidation may be an option. If you are, let's say, for example, your business, you are too small, you are maybe have to consolidate with your partners, or maybe to alliance, not such consolidation. All right. So, so after you're able to do that, of course, then you can start your journey to Industry 4 by first looking at your process improvement, how you can improve your process, reducing your waste, talent, look into your people, how to upskill them, reskill them, and of course, you know, so that they're able to do some improvement or Kaizen activities in your factory. Then technology can come later. Once you have all this in place, you can talk about computerization, you can talk about digitalization, and of course, also a little bit of automation or robotic if you want in the future. So my advice is start your Industry 4 journey now, but do it step by step. That's all I have. Thank you.
Sorry, my fault today. I think I just unmuted. Okay, now, well, after listening to Mr. Cheong, we got to understand why during the beginning of his presentation, he said most of us are not ready. Because before the technology part comes in, actually we have 4 more steps to do, right? Self-assessment, process improvement, talents, and all that. So does it mean that, Mr. Cheong, if you know, the bosses out there, they want to make that transformation, they really have to, for example, what you mentioned just now, from low volume, high mix, they have to actually re-strategize before they can move on to either automation or IR 4.0.
That's right. I think there have been a lot of hype, I think, being created by this Industry 4, because there were so many of these Industry 4 seminars being done. In fact, some of them are the big companies, and you know, so I think these are catered for maybe the bigger companies. Yes, they can go, you know, very much into the Industry 4 when they can talk about you know, AR and all that technology. But I don't think that SME, they should be look at the problem that they are having now. So obviously, I said, start with, I think if the bosses want to do something, it has to be top down, because I think if you just send your engineer for training and then you expect the engineer come back will know what to do, I think it's going to be difficult, because it has to be a top and bottom up, top down and bottom up as well. That means you actually have a form a team, you know, then to chart out where you want to go, to what extent you want to move, because Industry 4, there's so many pillars, right? I don't think we want to do everything in Industry 4, right? So what is critical to you? Like, for example, if digitization, if your connectivity with your supplier and your customer is very important, maybe you look into that as your important, because I think the customer may want you. Let's say, for example, your big customer, you are supplying to your big customers, MNC, they may want you to be digitized so that you can connect to the system. So that is the area that you have to look at. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is, you know, if we transform and then we move to smart factory, of course, one of the reasons is more cost effective, and we want to scale up the business, right? But there are other sayings by, you know, some other, you know, economists. They say, oh, the global trend is very different now. Okay. Instead of globalization, we might enter another stage called deglobalization, because learning from what happened in China, we know the breakage of the supply chains. Some may not want to rely on single source or in very limited sources, so that anything happen, you know, my business would be affected. So what's your view on that, Mr. Tiong?
Yeah, of course, it's, I would say at this movement of the global supply chain, actually it can be plus and minuses to us, because minuses in that sense that, because if we are supplying to China, like for example, or if we are supplying parts to China, of course, we will be affected, because if China's, the volume in China is, you know, it's going down, obviously if their economy is down, then we are affected. But at the same time, because of the movement, some of these supply chain are moving out of China, and then where will they go? Likely will be Southeast Asia, and Malaysia is in the right place, because we have, you know, we have the technology as well as the talent of the people. If you are ready, so you know, businesses will come to us, and then that's why I'm saying, is our SME ready to take on this new business that may come to Malaysia? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. And this is question, I think is out of the topic.
Yeah,
but to derive from manufacturing, today we are talking about SMEs in manufacturing. What if I'm not in manufacturing, for example, in servicing? How can I embark my journey, you know, taking the ideas from what you have shared with us? For example, servicing or other industries as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think servicing, again, as I said, digitization, I think it still can be done in terms of service. In fact, servicing side, the complexity actually less complex compared to manufacturing. Because manufacturing, you deal with the processes and things like that. So servicing side, actually, it's actually a lot, when you want to go to Industry 4, actually a lot easier, because mainly it actually involves more on the computerization, you know, things like that, more in that area, you know, collecting data. Of course, you need to collect data to see how you are able to improve your operation and things like that. So of course, it's the same. The concept is there, but of course, complexity, I think, is less. Yeah, of course, so maybe in the service industry, yes,
manufacturing,
yes,
right?
Service, they perhaps will look at more on the customer engagement side. I think, you know, how do you engage with your customer? That means utilizing, you know, more of data analytics. That's why I think that online, you know, that's why they have all this now. They're able to track what you do and in the online. So this is, I think, to me, if you are in the service, so obviously that should be the way that you look at, rather than so not so much the operation, but more on the engaging. How do you engage with your customer?
Okay, so yeah, listen, gentlemen out there, though you're not in manufacturing, actually we can pick up some tips from our experts here to see how to modify and make our future business better. And I think one point that I like very much from Mr. Tiong is, you know, the preparation that you have to do. And now, though we are being so-called locked down, but there are a lot that we can do, and probably is a perfect time for all the business owners to really sit down, because normal days you run around, making money, and
Yes.
we look into a lot of things, and yeah, to get yourself ready for another battle. And we all want to be the winner, right? Enough initiatives, like all the cash, all the reliefs and stuff. Yeah.
Seems like breaking.
Right, you're losing me. Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here again.
Okay.
You see me?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So what I was trying to say is that during this period, a lot of people, they might complain, not enough reliefs, initiatives, measures, whether it's good or beneficiary to us or not. At the same time, we can do a lot, for example, to relook into our strategy, the 5 points that Mr. Tiong has brought up just now. And yeah, so now let's talk about the help. It's none other than our third speaker, Encik Mohd Mirza Mohamed Noor, Senior Director, National Strategic Initiative, Mohd Mirza. I'm sure a lot of people come and look for you. Hey, what kind of help can we get? Yeah, a lot of people know that Mohd Mirza is an agency under Ministry of International Trade and Industry, and currently in the National Engagement Group in supporting MITI on national initiatives. A lot of people have heard of Industry4WRD, and Encik Mohamed Mirza has spent the last 10 years in this company in various R&D roles, overseeing the wireless communication and Internet of Things solutions development from homegrown technology. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Encik Mohamed Mirza. And he's going to share with us a lot of good news or not, no, or what we can do.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Morning. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, guys. Okay, I'm going to share my slides here. Hold on. Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. For today, I'm going to be talking or sharing on the MITI's initiative, which is called Industry4WRD. It is basically an Industry 4.0, but we so-called like MITI rebranded to be called Industry4WRD. Okay. So as you can see over here, I think a little bit have history on this one. It was officially launched by our ex-Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, back in the 31st October 2018. Okay. The goal of this Industry4WRD is to help the manufacturing sector, mainly the SMEs. Okay, SMEs in the manufacturing sector, as well as manufacturing related services sector, to understand and find out the gaps for them to move up the chain of the Industry 4.0. I think as Mr. Tiong already pointed out clearly just now, that our SMEs, not all of them in Industry 4.0. I think a bunch of them, or majority of our SMEs, basically doing around Industry 2.0 to 2.2 or 2.5, something like that. I'm going to share a little bit of experience as we go through this presentation over here. So the government initiative over here back in 2019, the goal is to fund around 500 SME throughout this program over here. And then if everybody jumps directly to the bottom of the page over here, it is a grant. The government is providing a 70-30 matching grant to SMEs on this program over here. The maximum value of this grant is 500K. Okay. So it is a 500K grant based on the 70-30 matching module over here. Okay, let me move forward. So I think the next questions that people are gonna ask is that what is this readiness assessment program over here under Industry4WRD? So the readiness assessment program over here has a few entities. First of all, as the name has a couple of entities, as the name applies, is that we have to do so-called readiness assessment on our SMEs right now, because we need to know currently whether they are at 1.0 or 2.0 or 3.0. And then we can so-called like recommend specific POC to bring them up to the next level only. So meaning to say that the goal of intervention over here is that if a company is doing around is at industry 2.0, we want to move them up the chain to maybe closer to 2.5 or 3.0. It depends on the readiness of the company itself. Remember, when we talk about SMEs over here, it can range from a very, very small company with like 10 people or 10 personnel over here, all the way to 50 personnel over here. Okay. The second portion of this readiness assessment over here is on the business intervention over here. So this is business intervention over here is where we proposed a recommended POC based on our assessment, and then the SME would take up this so-called like a proposed POC, and then starts to apply the grant from MIDA. So MIDA will be involved because the grant will be dispersed through MIDA over here. And eventually we work throughout this what we call the implementation, whether with consultant or whether with their own in-house expertise to the end of the program. And eventually we report back to MIDA in terms of success of it. Okay, so let me go what do you call the items by items over here so that make it clear to the SMEs out there what are the processes involved to apply for this readiness assessment. The first thing is that what you guys can do for SMEs, you guys need to go into the MITI website. So under the MITI website over there, you can look for the industry forward. Okay, there is a menu. There is a menu in the middle of the page. On the right-hand side, that's actually it's a pull-down menu. You can click, and then what do you call that? You can look for the industry forward. So over there, they have a 4th segment that you have to fill in. What do you call that? The basic information of your company, and eventually, and also the second one is the company, what do you call that? Utilization on technologies and so on. So you need to go and then apply online through MITI website. So after that one is done, your application will be evaluated by the technical and steering committees over here within MITI. So MITI has a representative from what we call that various sectors, including manufacturing sectors and also the agencies to be in the steering, also technical committee to vet through all the application. So this is just what you call that to make sure that the SME's application over here is genuine enough in terms of meeting the criteria of manufacturing. So after that one is done, MITI will go and initiate the on-site assessment. Okay, the on-site assessment over here is that in order to make sure that the on-site assessment over here follows certain standard rules and also guidelines, MITI has already sent around in excess of 80 personnel. Okay, 80 personnel from various agencies. MARI is one of them, SIRI, MIMOS, and also a few of private companies to be involved to a standardized training on the Industry 4.0, specifically on how to do the assessment on the technology itself. So on technology, people, and process. Technology, people, and process. So you can say that we have in excess 80 what we call the assessor to go and assess each of SMEs. So this is to the point that was brought up by Mr. Tiong and even Dr. Chua, was that before any SMEs embark into Industry 4.0, they need to take stock and know where they are currently, whether what do you call it, and how much technology utilization and also the readiness of the people and the processes that they have. So MITI being what do you call that, putting effort in order to make sure that everybody, the assessor over here, has the same standards, same guideline whenever they go to SME for evaluation. So typically, the on-site assessment over here, we're going to be done within 2 days by 2 assessors. That is mandated by MITI. It has to be done by 2 assessors and minimum 2 days. So this is where our assessors are going to talk, going to have a good discussion with the typically factory owner or their high-level management. So within these 2 days over here, the assessor and also the management or the factory owner, we have to sit down and find out in terms of factory, and then find out all the information about the factory itself, from people readiness, from leadership readiness, and also from the utilization of technology. And then typically on the second day or half portion of a second day in the afternoon, the assessor and the team, we have a factory visit, the actual on-site factory visit, just to observe what do you call that, the machinery and also the processes, and taking notes, where are the gaps that can be implemented. So upon the assessment over there, the assessor has to write so-called like a report, no less than thousands, what do you call that, 1,000 words a report on the assessment of their SMEs. So the report's supposed to contain these 3 different segments, where you have people, process, and also technology. The technology, we typically looking from the 11 technology pillars of Industry 4.0. Okay, on the people, we look at the awareness and also the openness in terms of embracing what we call the Industry 4.0. In terms of processes, we look at whether they have a structured processes or not. Okay, so after the what do you call that? After the assessment is done, the report also has to include in terms of the return of investment. So if MITI were to invest, say for an example, 300,000 or giving grant 300,000 to any particular SMEs, this they have to calculate, meaning to be the assessor as well as the company has to calculate together to show that the return on investment typically would be what, within 1 year or 6 months, all these things, because that one would be used as a guiding criteria for the next level of approval by MITI steering and also technical committee. So this is right before the SME able to apply for the fund from MIDA. Okay, so to say that it is quite an extensive on-site assessment over here, because we want to make sure that the success of it is what do you call that, is high chance of success of it. Okay, so after the on-site assessment and then the report submitted to the steering committee, then the steering committee within MITI will look through all the proposal, recommended proposal on the POC, and then what do you call that, decide whether it can be approved or not. Typically, they look at the return of investment period. They look at the type of technology that was proposed. And typically the technology that we try to propose over here would be a retrofit of current IoT devices, okay, current IoT devices to the existing machinery. Because as we know, current SME or any SMEs, basically when they are using this one particular machine over here, they typically don't want to go and change to another machine. And then this program over here is not about buying a new machine. This program over here is about trying to retrofit to the existing module, or what do you call that, processes that the SMEs currently already have. Okay. So after that, upon approval by the technical committee over here, technical and steering committee, the report will be sent back to the SMEs for approval. Upon agreement of SME approval that they like the report and they like the recommendation, all these things, then they can use and peg it together the report with the application to MIDA. So this is one of the criteria MIDA is looking for this particular industry forward fund over here. So typically when it goes to MIDA for what do you call it, application, once it's approved, then this the company what do you call it, responsibility to so-called carry it out the implementation all the way to the end, and then reports back to MIDA to look at in terms of its successful implementation or not. So this is the bottom portion, that will be the bottom portion which we call a business intervention. So MIDA is the key player on this one. So the top player over here, we have MPC, Malaysia, which is one agency under MITI, which is actually overlooking this assessment process over here. MPC is Malaysia Productivity Corporation, whereas SIRIM, MARI, and also MEMOS will be known as the assessing body. So we are the one helping MPC, which eventually MITI, to do the assessment. Okay. So the next slide over here, I want to share in terms of when we talk about assessment, when I mentioned about assessment over there, and then also my esteemed colleagues also did mention about people, technology, and processes. These are the so-called three shift factor. We call it shift factor in this Industry 4.0. So if you look at it, when we do our assessment, we pay 50% what we call that weightage on the technology itself, whereas on the process is 30% and on the people is 20%. So this is what the program is focusing on. So under these three shift thrusts over here, we can divide it into so shift factor. We can divide it into 8 thrust factors over here. So you look at it over here, there's we are covering from operation to product management to even supply chain and human capital development, asset automation, as mentioned just now, in terms of vertical integration, connectivity, and also asset intelligence. And then out of this 4 is being branched out into 21 dimensions. So when our assessor goes to SMEs to do assessment, they will have to look at through these 21 dimensions over here. So when they have to write report, they have to write report through these 21 dimensions. So this is to ensure that we cover as much as we could, or majority of it, on the 3 shift factors, which comprise of process, people, and technology. So if you can see over here, there's a lot more attention being given to the technology. Okay, but then we're not forgetting about people, which is very crucial. If people has to embrace, then the technology can go on, isn't it? So when we look into people over here, in a nutshell, when we doing our assessment over here, on the people, typically we look at in terms of awareness. So awareness of the Industry 4.0, and eventually the understanding of the Industry 4.0, and also in terms of the, what do you call that, the steps or the preparation being undertaken by current SME on the Industry 4.0. From the processes of we can summarize that. We look at, we're looking into the, what do you call that, management over here, in terms of workflow, and also in terms of data flow, as pointed out by what do you call that, our 2 colleagues also. These are the important aspect or entity of Industry 4.0. And then the last one over here on the technology, automation. Mr. Tiong did mention about automation. Yes, we do look into this one. And then not only automation itself, we look at in terms of intelligence of the automation itself. And then eventually the connectivity, whether all the machineries are all interconnected and they're talking to each other or not. And this is like an Industry 4.0. But what I'm trying to say over here is that we try to do assessment right away from Industry 1.0 to 4.0, and then try to find out exactly, along with the SME, where they stand currently. So starts from there, then we have to come up with the recommendation POC. Again, it's limited within 500K from MITI. Okay, next slide over here. So as I mentioned early on, is it's very, very crucial for each of SME to understand their level of readiness, where they are right now. So our team of assessor will be able to help them to do the assessment on these things. Number two is that identify the gaps and area of improvement. So if you notice that the fund is actually it's only 500K, so it's not really meant for a mega millions project over here. So typically, what our assessor would do is to go and look at in terms of the production. See, because we're dealing with the manufacturing, we look at the production module and try to identify which of the production module or the what we call that processes that's actually having a bottleneck. So once we found out that any of the specific what do you call that processes having a bottleneck, we try to include technology and then find out whether by including this technology over here, we can actually increase the output of that processes. So we try to do what do you call that so-called like a simple or to medium complexity of what do you call that technology implementation, because I think as of SMEs out there can vouch is that I think majority of them is actually quite skeptical whether technology can actually help them at this particular point. So we need to give a taste of them to start small on these things and eventually build up all the way to Industry 4.0. So this program over here is about the initial steps. Okay. So recommend action based over here, recommend action plan, it is an outcome based. Again, as I mentioned before in the process, we have the recommended POC to go against the ROI. So this is what we are looking at. Okay, the next slide over here, I think is pretty much the summary of what I've, what do you call that, presented or shared just now. From people, we look at the transformative initiative, human capital development, process, the operation, all these things, and then technology. We're looking at in terms of automation and intelligence. So eventually, the reason why MITI is also focusing on the SMEs because it's one of the main contributor of the national GDP. Okay, so that's the last of my slide, and then thank you for listening.
Thank you, Inchik. Okay, yeah, I think the first question for me is since this program, this campaign was launched back in 2018, how's the response so far? How are the SMEs reacting to them?
It has been very, very encouraging. Mm-hmm. Very encouraging. Up to date, we have close to 500 companies or SMEs. Mm-hmm. 500 SMEs already, what do you call that, logging in to the application. Mm-hmm. And then after that 500, so far, we have done assessment close to 300 companies.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the success rate, mind to share? Because like you said, you know, the readiness part, you know, a lot might not be able to fulfill. So what's the average success rate?
Sure. The success rate eventually, if you, what do you call that, ponder on the process that I mentioned just now, it has to go into the business intervention. After the assessment, it has to go into the business intervention. Currently, of this, what do you call that, of the 300 that we assess, I got to know close to 60 companies actually right now applying for the grant from MIDA. Mm-hmm. So you can think from the after application, applying the grant from MIDA, then they have to do the implementation. And the implementation typically would take like 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 weeks to 6 months. It depends on the complexity. Mm-hmm. So right now, around 50 or 60 company is doing the application right now. So it's too soon or too early for me to gauge in terms of the success rate on this one.
Okay. And any companies that have already gotten the 500K in full, and have you guys followed up with them? You know, because like you said, it's this initial step to help out. You know, it's not really big amount for the entire transformation. So any cases that you can share with us?
Oh, that one, I'm sorry, I don't have the visibility on that one because it's under MIDA. It's under MIDA. I think I can only talk from the assessment point of view because my company or Mimos is directly involved on that one.
And for those business owners out there, you know, they haven't taken any action, and maybe after your presentation, they might be interested. So what do they need to pay attention before they filing their applications?
I think nothing much. It's just that if they're Malaysian SME, they just need to go to MITI website and then start, applying for it.
Yeah, but I'm sure that, like you said, if the readiness, the step one, you know, they can't fulfill, so the process will take much longer. So maybe, you know, during this period, they can probably, you know, prepare themselves better before they tender or they file in their applications. Anything that they can, you know, pay attention to prepare better.
Yeah, there is no such prerequisite on that one.
I see.
Because as I mentioned in my presentation, the current state of the SMEs in terms of whether they are industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, that one is basically they will work together with the assessor throughout the assessment program. So all they need to do is just apply for it, and then we will send our assessors to start working with them.
So the assessors will guide them step by step.
Yes.
And I'm sure some may take longer than the rest because, you know, every entity is different, and what they need to do is probably to cooperate and then be more patient, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think some companies, for example, it takes longer to do assessment. What do you call that? Simply because in terms of the complexity that might be involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
But I think it's just a simple. I do urge all SMEs, you know, to go into the MITI website and start applying for it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now let's attend to some questions that you know, we got at the chat room as well as the Q&A room. The first question is asked by Han Yu. Okay. May I know, for the technology provider for IR 4.0 and the Internet of Things technology, what is the recommended and the most effective way to reach out to the potential market or to the potential user of IR 4.0 in Malaysia? So this is, I think, for Dr. Chua.
So if I look at the question again, may I know, for the provider, what is the recommended most effective way to reach out to potential market or user in Industry 4.0? So I think in terms of the technology provider, we will need to, I think to reach out to the market is more about seeing how your technology actually fits into your customer systems. Now, when we talk about the whole concept of Industry 4.0 in terms of smart factory, we really look at modularity, compatibility, and scalability. So basically, if you're a technology provider in IR 4.0 and IoT, the most effective way I would say is to look at whether your systems are modular enough, it is compatible with you know, systems in the other industries. You can do a bit and market research on that, and of course, really look at how your you know, your technology can really scale up. You know, there are a lot of actually technologies in the global market that are actually very much scalable. And why they are scalable is actually that if you think about it, you know, they have a lot of these things called connectors, right? Plugins, right? That actually allows them to connect to many systems or many operating systems in a very fast and effective method. And how they actually are able to go to market at a very fast rate is basically through their collaborative platforms. So basically, it's an ease of entry for the technology provider, meaning to say that you can download, you know, a software today and you can actually use it at home. And once you're more confident with it, you know, you can actually start to look at, you know, scaling up, and that's where they have, you know, enterprise support and all that. So that's where you know where the customer's money will be spent, but you need to give them an ease of entry, you know, in terms of your technology, so that they can, you know, get used to it, get comfortable with it, and then they can adopt it.
Okay, yeah. So
can I chop up on that particular questions over there? Okay. So in the RA program, Readiness Assessment program over here, for all the SMEs that's actually what do you call that, register or applying for this program, we put them into this so-called database that we call BizForward. So this database over here, we have two categories. One is so-called the user, and one is so-called supplier of the or provider of the solution. So to this particular question to Kok Han over here, all you have to do is to register your company and also the services that you are providing inside inside this BizForward database that we have. And then you have a visibility to all the SMEs. Currently, all the SMEs that we're doing assessment over here, they definitely have to look for what do you call that IoT provider or Industry 4.0 provider over here, and then they can use this particular database so-called to do the matching and then find out what do you call that which are the provider that they need to use. So it is a matching platform also per se. So we call it BizForward.
Mm-hmm. BizForward.
Okay, BizForward. I can actually share what do you call that, the link. How am I going to do this thing? Share the link to you.
Yeah, and you can just type in the Q&A room. Yeah, you just paste it there.
What is it?
You know the bottom, the icons at the bottom of the Zoom room. You know, there. You know, you see the pop-up Q&A.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you can actually paste there, so everybody can get it. Yeah.
Okay. I post it shortly afterwards. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Somebody already done it.
Okay. So let's move on to the second question from Wesley. How does IR 4.0 provide a constructive disruption to an established market, for example, discrete products? Does it change the market strategy? What advantage or disadvantage does it bring to a typical brick and mortar SME business? The conventional ones. So I think this question to Mr. Tiong.
I would say how it's going to disrupt, because because of the mass customization, I think the trend is towards this. The Industry 4 allows the company to go for mass customization, because I think some of them actually, like you look at MNCs right now. So why are they moving their production to our region here? Because they want to, they want to save costs. They need a lot of human to do their production. But I think once the automation is possible, where they're able to do even to what we call lot size one, even they're able to make things for just one customer, one lot size, and then which means you can actually have a factory. You don't have to have a factory here. Actually, they can have a factory back in their country. Just lights off. It is possible in the future. So in that sense, going forward, you may have a situation where they don't need to set a factory here. If you're talking about, if your SME are relying on this MNC, your business may not be there because if they decide one day to move out. So that's why I say we have to move up to the value chain in terms of this is for us to survive in the future. Because if you don't, I think our business may not be there. We may not be able to survive in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Chua or Inchi, anything to add on?
I think, Mr. Tiong covered it on my side. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. It's from Kwang Ming Tan. Okay, that's your question. Pardon my ignorance. Is there any common protocol to interface the myriad mix of machines in your production ecosystem, or with a factory required to high expensive system integrated end up dependent on the SI on the long run? Dr. Chua?
Yeah, so I think this is the part that I shared earlier in terms of, the idea about the smart factories, modularity and flexibility in terms of compatibility. So when we talk about common protocol interfaces, I'm pretty sure that many machines, they have different type of protocols, that they use. It's all about understanding, what are the protocols available. And if you think about it, it's really much about, when you integrate it together, it's to help each machine talk to each other in a single system. So when you develop your system, it's more or less, if you think about it in a very layman term, it's like Google Translate, right? For example, if I need to know translate from Spanish to English, from any languages. That's how machine works as well. So you have a software, a middleware to actually break down all the communication protocols, get them to communicate with each other. And that's how you can actually scale up your ecosystem in a very effective manner. For us, I would say that an option is to always hire a system integrator. That is no problem. It's your choice. But what we share, of course, is how we can, help to develop your people, at the end of the day, to understand these protocols in a more fundamental and practical application method, so that they themselves can help you to scale up and to connect them all together. So that sort of brings down your overall cost in the long run.
Mm-hmm. And gentlemen, anything to add on?
Yeah, can I add to that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, of course, you talk about retrofitting an existing machine. I think the challenge will be faced by SME if the machines are very old. Let's say, for example, the machines are 30, 40 years old. Then I think some of the controller may be already obsolete, and I don't think it is so easy to integrate, right? So I think, of course, machine can be still running. So recommendation is maybe not to replace the controller per se, because if it's still working, I think why fix it, right? So if you want to collect data, I think one way to do is to do what we call hardwire. Just tap the signal, what signal you want. You can tap it to now you can get a simple controller, PLC controller, which costs only, you can get it for 1,000 ringgit, or then you can tap and collect a lot of data from there, from the machine. Then of course with the PLC, you can have standard protocol, right? For example, a newer, what we call controller devices they normally will use some kind of more standard protocol. Like for example, Ethernet IP, or use EtherCAT, or some more standard where more different vendors can connect together. So I think even enables you to actually connect the data directly to your, for example, SQL. All these are actually possible. Very inexpensively, you can do it, without having to actually, sometimes managing the different protocol can be also challenging, because especially if the protocol is not a common protocol, not an open protocol, right? Which means used by many manufacturers. So sometimes it's a proprietary protocol. Then I think to crack that protocol is going to be very, very difficult. So not advisable to do anything in that area, but rather just do maybe some hardwire, just tap the whatever signal you want, just then connect to your backend system.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay. This question is to Inchik. Is from Mazlan Abbas. Now he said there are more than 900,000 establishments of SMEs in Malaysia. So if only 500 registered online, the number is relatively small. What do we do to encourage them?
Okay. Yeah. So MITI has embarked on the outreach program since last year. That's one of the initiatives taken up by MITI. And then also, I think this webinar over here would be one of the promotion that we're trying to do over here. But MITI do have this outreach program. Okay. But as I mentioned just now, the application is very simple. All what you call it SME has to do is just go and log in and then just apply. I think it would take like maybe maybe half an hour, because there's questions that they have to answer. Simple as that only.
Okay, now let's move on to the operation side from KT Tan. Change of management, particularly, we're talking about HR, SOP, cultures, a big part of a company to be Industry 4.0 ready. How can an SME achieve that with minimal disruption? Smooth transition, we want. So these, I think, Dr. Chua and Mr. Chuang.
Yep. On my side, I think in terms of change management, I think it's very important. For example, leadership commitment is very, very important in terms of developing the culture within the company. And by developing the culture in the organization, that's where you can sort of bring up commitment and bring up some passion from the team to actually embrace or adopt the Industry 4.0 technologies. So that's why we always go with leadership commitment, developing the organizational structure, and identifying some quick win projects so that it starts to build confidence among the team. that it helps to ease off some processes, and that's where you can really achieve that with very minimal disruption to your entire operation. Yeah, Mr. Tiong, would you like to add on?
Yeah, I think you have basically covered all. Yeah, whatever I want to say. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is to you, Mr. Tiong. As a money part, has Omron together with the customers to study the total cost comparison between automating a task with robots or machine versus with labor?
Okay, I would say, of course, there's always this challenge of ROI. Normally, of course, the challenges is how are you able to get ROI when we are still utilizing a lot of foreign labor. I think our labor cost is still relatively low. So, of course, if you are only talking about using one robot to replace one person, then usually it's kind of difficult to justify this kind of ROI. But I would say you can, the area that you can look at obviously is look at the area where you have utilized a lot of human, where a lot of labor, very labor intensive. One aspect of it, I would say, like, for example, a robot can be used in a lot of pick and place, like in the food industry, where they need to put things into, for example, what they call boxes. Like, for example, we have done one job by, let's say cup noodle, they put some what I call all this seasoning into this. So they actually have to employ many workers just to do this job, just to put into so it can be done by robots. So when you're able to replace many workers, then the ROI is, you are able to achieve ROI. So typically our recommendation is that if you're able to get ROI, that means a payback within 3 years, I think that's a good investment. That's a good investment. That's a guideline you can use. Of course, anything beyond that, that will depend on how much how you are going to consider your business from your business point of view, right? Of course, when you look at ROI in terms of the saving and everything, it's not just a human cost that you save, right? I think you have to look at it, save it in the terms of, let's say, for example, the quality side, because human actually make mistakes. So the cost of, the human error, I think should be also calculated into your ROI as well, your calculation of this. So when you actually consider all this into picture, then it is definitely now possible to justify ROI. In fact, nowadays, robot prices also have come down, all right? So over time, So I would say, yes, you may have to look at that. And in fact, a lot of time we see in the recent years, we were able to introduce now a lot of robots into our customer place. That means it means that they are able to justify this investment through the ROI calculations.
Okay, so another type of cost. This is a question from Katie Tan again. Securing the network and data protection against cyber threats is of paramount. Is it costly to do it? And then together with this question also from him, is there any particular regulatory compliance of, for example, PDPA, etc.? So I think Mr. Chua can continue.
Of course, one of the important aspects of Industry 4 is cybersecurity. So obviously, so if you are putting a lot of information in the cloud, so obviously, so you have to have certain, cybersecurity. Of course, the data center should be able to already do some kind of protection for you. So I suppose if you talk about this data in terms of, of course, you have to look at the resources that you are using. If you want to make it, for example, Zoom, a lot of people are concerned about using Zoom, right? So if you want to be more secure, so obviously you may have to choose a more secure platform. So I think this is a choice that you have to make. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, and there's another question related to non-manufacturing companies is from Wesley. Wesley said, agreed on moving up the value chain. Thanks, Mr. Tiong. And for a non-manufacturing company, is it possible to implement our IR 4.0 based on the business processes, for example, skills to lead generation and funneling, service flow, and after-sales support, basically automating the entire retail experience? So we have Dr. Chua.
So in terms of non-manufacturing companies, I think there are a lot of opportunities, especially for non-manufacturing companies to really move up the value chain, as shared with Mr. Tiong. So when you think about, when you think about Industry 4.0 for non-manufacturing services, is how connected you are with the community. How do you integrate with, for example, if you look at the whole delivery, food delivery process, right? Like when the COVID-19 sort of hit, how fast were people, able to digitize and put up their products, on an online platform and straight away engage with customers. And I think that's where, digitalization comes about. And it's very important, to look at certain systems to help you to actually move up for example, your sales to lead generation. And there are a lot of systems out there, for example, like Freshdesk, Freshworks, which actually helps you to see how, your sales are generated, from all the leads that you have. And, I came across a platform which was very interesting recently that, through Zoom calls and through Microsoft Teams, it actually captures, how you conversate with your customers. And it actually has an AI algorithm behind it to actually see, to give you an idea whether it will convert to sales later on. It's a very interesting tool. And there's a lot of other ways where you can, do search engine optimization. And those are actually very helpful for a lot of non-manufacturing companies out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
okay, maybe I can add a little on a service business. Like for example, we have, this what I call availability of service robots is also will become available, because we have also done some what I call POC, or including implementation in Singapore, for example, for hotel, for use the robots to do delivery of to do a room service. We also have service robot that actually at the airport, for example, to remind cars to move, the kind of thing, to broadcast. We also have robots that now, because of COVID, to able to provide a UV light to able to what I call destroy this COVID, so all these are possible, of course, using technology, and of course also beside the IT side. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think we are now taking the last two questions before we adjourn. Okay, one more question again from Kok Han Yu. Based on your experience in IR 4.0, what's the level of acceptance of SME manufacturing sector in Malaysia to have the dashboard visualization analytics on the cloud instead of on-premise? As cloud-based solution is generally having much more lower entry cost, but how open is factory in Malaysia to cloud solution and have their factory data on cloud? Okay, I think to Dr. Chua.
Yeah, sure. So generally, from our experience, when we work with SMEs, when we work with the industries that come for our programs, most of them will actually prefer data at the moment being stored on premise. Of course, I think it's more of the idea on data security, and a lot of manufacturing heads or leaders, they prefer to keep all the data in the factory and not outside of the factory. But I think eventually it is important for the industries to understand what data is important to be kept on the shop floor in the factory, and what are the data that should be kept in the cloud. So not all data should be transferred directly to the cloud. And when you talk about real-time analytics, when you talk about data being transmitted per second, that's a lot of data generated and pushed to the cloud, and that's going to be very costly in the long run when we actually push a lot of data to the cloud systems like Azure or AWS. So I think that the main key point will be what are the useful data that you can put in the cloud, and what the cloud systems are there to do the data analytics for you, and whether is it more important to do it in the cloud or do it on premise, because a lot of decision making actually needs to be done on premise, to for example, machine control, alarm triggering, and edge-based analytics should be done on the shop floor. And only for me, only important information for visualization should be done in the cloud. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is in line with our findings also, what do you call that, on the 300 odds SMEs that we already assessed. They're pretty open for the cloud-based services, all these things. But then they know that whatever important information, it has to be kept, in the premise itself. But they are open, because to them, the cost is number one factor. So we have to understand that. Okay.
Okay. Let's have this last question. I think is really relevant, especially now. It's a chicken and egg situation from Siu Wai Yong. How SMEs balance the act between business survival versus digital transformation after the COVID-19? Which cash reservation has burned out and need to survive business? I need to survive because, now it's all about cash flow, right? And I need to move forward, okay, way forward. So how? Chicken and egg. If I don't move forward, I die, okay? If I don't have cash, I also die. So what's your view, your opinion to this?
Okay, can I try?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Tiong.
Okay, so of course, business survival is obviously very important right now at this stage. So I think if survival is because of cash flow, then I think obviously it's maybe some kind of loan that you have to get loan from banks. That right now I think government is having this special relief fund and all that to give a loan at low interest. So I think these are possible that you can look at. Of course, if you start cutting people, of course that is, I think I would say I would recommend that they should do it as a last resort, because if they cannot, for example, they have no choice, because if their business has already gone, then I think it's a different issue, right? For example, if the going concern, they cannot continue in the business, so obviously maybe they have to cut people. But if their business is still there, it's just that maybe their cash flow are affected, then borrow money and then keep the people. I think important is to now, critical time is the people. You have to, focus on your people, train your people, and then, this is a time that you need to invest in your people. So of course, the HRDF right now has a lot of free courses. We have a lot of this free webinar. This is the best time to upskill the people, and prepare for this industry forward. Because if you start cutting people, then later when your business come back and you want to hire again, it takes a long time. Sometimes technical people, it takes a long time to train them. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Chua, chicken and egg.
Yep. Definitely, I would say that this is a very, very good question. And that's why on our side, how we really support the SMEs is to give them, a very low entry Kickstarter points, and if we look at the whole global aspect of things, a lot of technologies out there, they are really reacting to the whole COVID-19 situation. And they're actually providing a lot of, packages, which actually helps the industries to actually scale up digitally in terms of digital transformation. Low entry can be even easier to adopt than a cloud platform. When we talk about on-premise, it doesn't need to be expensive, and that's where, the whole global community is actually helping. And I would say that this is a time to actually, take the time, like what Mr. Tiong has shared, to understand the digital transformation roadmap, to understand how to integrate your technologies. And when the time is right, you can go all out. This is the exploration phase, I would say. And that's where you need to start, exploring technologies at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And Mirza, your advice to this, how to survive. Yeah.
It's tough. I think the questions that every SME has the answer to that one. I think survivability during this, after this COVID-19 over here, it's going to get tough. I think as Mr. Tiong pointed out over here, the first thing that the company can do is right now, there's available training to upscaling the people, because one of the assessment that we did was that we look at the readiness of the personnel in embracing Industry 4.0. That would be a good time for them to take up the training at this particular moment. Like it or not, I mean, technology is becoming crucial to business on our daily business over here. But then survivability also, we have to make sure that we have the people to do the work, all these things. So to me, I don't have a right answer to this one. I think it depends on the SME. So each SME has different sets of problems or issues they are looking at.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure all of you out there, like me, I have learned a lot from our three experts. Before we adjourn, there's a special request from quite a lot of them that I need to check with Eugene and then our speakers. A lot is asking from you guys, your slides and your presentation. They were wondering whether, they can get a copy so that they can go back, maybe discuss with the team. And then is it possible to do so?
Sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We will make copies available. Yeah.
So I'll let you guys arrange, after this webinar.
Yeah.
And also, and alternatively, you can also go on MCCC official Facebook. Yeah, because this one is being live there, right? So you can always watch it, and maybe you can share with more people, your team, your management, and whoever you think is useful. Yeah. Okay. So I think now it's 12:45. Yeah, it's about time for us to adjourn this session. And once again, thank you very much, Dr. Chua, Mr. Tiong, and Mirza, and thank you very much, MCCC, for having me. Thank you, guys out there, for your participation. I hope this this can make it, like really way forward, for all of us. All right. So thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Yes, thank you again thank you for all the speakers again, as well as Malaysian China Chambers of Commerce want to record our appreciation to all three of you, including our Miss Wong, for fantastically moderating this session. Just two more points I want to highlight before we end the session.
Okay.
Number one, I think we have the next webinar session. Session 8 is coming up on the 7th of May at 3 p.m. Just make a note of that. And the title of that webinar is called Global and Malaysian Market Economy Outlook, Building Back a Resilient Economy and Reshape the Business Strategy. I think it's the slide here to take note of that. And second last point is that the Malaysian China Chambers of Commerce is actually open to all Malaysian. I comes from the committee for the Malay and the English entrepreneur committee as well. All are welcome to join us. And once again, thank you everybody and all the attendees as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very
Stay safe,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.